Hi guys, it's Sam for Digital Meet, and today I want to talk about the motion tracker in C4D R17. Now, before I start, if you wanted to track your footage, from that you'll then solve a 3D camera, and then that'll allow you to drop 3D objects into your scene and it match the camera movement and give the illusion that your 3D object is within that scene. But with a lot of lenses, when you take footage, there'll be some slight bending and warping of what are meant to be vertical and horizontal lines because of the lens. So in C4D R17, if you go up to Tools and go to the Lens Distortion, you'll get this tool here. So this is where you'll drop your image that you've taken with your camera, and it will obviously show you your distortion. Now, I've got a picture here that demonstrates this. This is obviously a fisheye lens, but this is the kind of image you'll be that I'm talking about. So basically what you do is you pop your image in here, and this is the tool that you can use to straighten out your image. This will give you a lot more of an accurate track. Now, I'm not actually going to go into the lens distortion tool because the camera that I'm using my phone. It's a Nokia Lumia 920, and there isn't a lot of distortion on there. So I'd like to point you, if you are getting distortion, point you in the direction of Cineversity's Vimeo channel, and it's got a great quick start guide on the lens distortion tool for distorting wide angle footage, and that will give you everything you need to know about correcting lens distortion and adding it back into your 3D. So with that out of the way, let's crack on. So we need to track our footage. Up here we've got motion tracker. If I select this and select the motion tracker, I've got this object in my scene now. Now on footage, it's asking for some footage here. So this is my JPEG sequence. My original footage was actually this. Let me clear this. I'll do it from here just so you can see. Just turn this down. So this is my original footage. Not particularly interesting, but C4D doesn't particularly like you to drop video files in here. It is an MP4 and it will play, it's just not very quick. So what I did was I dropped this piece of footage into Premiere Pro. You can use After Effects or any other piece of software that you use, and I exported it as a JPEG sequence because C4D definitely prefers that to a video file. So let's open up my sequence, click on the first one, open, it will bring that in. Now you can see this resampling bar, and it's basically saying 33.333%. So that's actually 3% of the sort of clarity, if you like, or the quality of the original. So if we whack this right back up to 100, that is 100% of the quality of the JPEG. And as you can see, if I whack it down to 5%, it's not very good there. Sometimes you might want to do that, and others not. In this instance, I don't want to do that. I'm going to put it right up to 100%. Also, something to keep in mind, I know my footage is 24 frames a second, so I'm going to go all the way to my project settings, and as you can see, its FPS is 30 frames a second, so I'm going to set that to 24. And in my render settings, if we go to render settings, it's 1920 by 1080. I haven't put that in. What happens is, in the motion tracker, when you drop your footage in, it detects the resolution of it, but again, it doesn't detect the frame rate. It doesn't change the render's frame rate, so I'm going to change that to 24 because I know that's what my footage is. So now we're all set there, we can get on with the tracking. Okay, so what I was talking about before about the lens correction, you can actually save that as a profile once you've sorted that, and you can drop that file here. In my case, I don't need to do that. Again, you can look at the video that I talked about earlier on Cineversity's Vimeo page. I think that's everything we need to worry about on this tab. Next tab is 2D tracking. So, number of tracks, 300. Because of the resolution of the footage, I'm actually going to put this up because we're going to actually get rid of tracks that have got errors or they don't accelerate properly or that kind of stuff. So I'm going to actually crank this up to 1500. That should be enough. Minimum spacing. This is just the spacing between the tracking points, so you can say how close. In fact, let's have a look. I don't know what that's in pixels, maybe. This setting defines minimum distance in pixels the tracks should have to neighbouring tracks. So 19 pixels there is the minimum distance. And just round that off to 20. So you can actually manually track. And there's some options here as well. Default pattern size, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to worry about these two at the moment, so I'm just going to stay on automatic tracking here. And then we've got the auto track button, so this will basically track through the footage and create tracks based on points that it can track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the motion tracker, 2D tracking tab. I'm going to move my timeline indicator to somewhere in the middle, because this means that what it will do is it will track through the frames here and then track through the frames backwards. Can't remember which way around it is. It's either that way then that way, but it will give you a good sort of point in the middle where all the tracks are there and correct. So somewhere in the middle, that's fine. Then press auto track. Now, as you can see at the bottom here, we can see that it's processing frame 1. Okay, so it's actually going up. So it's started here and it's actually processing the frames upwards. And when it gets to the end, which will be shortly. Just to check. Yeah, I did set that to 24 frames. Good. Yeah. So it should get all the way up there. How many frames are actually in this? Okay. Sorry for the wait here, guys. There we go. It's processing frames, so it's creating a load of tracks on points of interest. Probably the corners of here would be a good place to put tracks. And when you auto track, Cinema automatically sort of identifies these points. And it will then try and track those points of interest as the footage moves throughout. So we ain't got long now. A few more frames here. I could have probably done with making the footage a little bit shorter really, but there we go. So now it's actually processed the frames. It then goes back over them just to check. Sort of like another pass really. And there we go. We're finished. So you can see these tracking points now. So if I scrub through, these tracks are stuck to the floor. As you can see up here, that it will be tracking a place and then it'll disappear. And then, you know, you can see a lot of sparkling there, but there'll be other tracks such as, let's pick this one on the floor here, where we'll scrub through and it doesn't disappear, it stays with it. So all in all, we got our tracking points. Now from these tracking points, we can actually clean up a lot of these tracking points actually. So let's deal with that first. Go to the motion tracker, we'll go to the graph view. And this is, I think this is also new in R17 as well. This is basically, it gives you a, I'm just going to hit H to frame everything. And you can actually stretch these out. And as you can see here, there's a load of red in here. Red is a bad track, green is good. So really what we want to do is eliminate the red. I actually prefer to work in this view up here. If we go up here, you can click this and you've got like this sort of graph view, and let's just do this. If we click on this error threshold here, you can see that it puts a red line on our graph, and it basically eliminates any points that lie above this threshold, and we can actually lower this. So if we lower it to 14, actually I might just put it up to 15, it crushes down a lot of the errors that we were having. So let's just get rid of the graph a minute. You can see there's a lot less tracking points now. And but the ones that are left are far more accurate tracks. Minimum length frames, so you can say that any track that lasts 15 frames or less is eliminated. I think I might tweak this threshold down to 10 and see what kind of result I get then. It's not bad. Yeah, alright, I think I'll leave it at 10. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Okay, so we go to Reconstruction now. Basically what happens here is the way that Cinema 4D solves the camera, it looks at the relationship between points. So here you can see this point in relation to this point here and how it rotates around it, and then it takes this relationship and looks at all the other points, basically all their relationships to each other, and it works out the parallax that's happening between them, and based on that information, that's how it solves the camera. So if I go back to the beginning, Reconstruction, full 3D construction, the focal length. Now I don't know it, but I'm going to assume it's constant, and I don't know what the sensor size is either. Known, constant, unknown, but constant, unknown. I don't even know if the focal length is. So I'm just going to click on unknown actually and see what result we get. So let's run the 3D solver. So as you can see at the bottom now, it says running 3D solver. And this probably going to take a couple of minutes. So what I might do is sort of pause it here for you and then come back to you in a sec. Okay, so we're back, and it's solved the camera. Let me just get back in here. So this is what our scene looks like. Why can't I? Okay, it's having a bit of a mare by the looks of things. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we can see from this picture, these green spots here, they are obviously our ground plane, but they're not lying flat on the floor. If we go into our camera view, this is what it looks like. So how do we solve this? So first of all, I'm going to click on the motion tracker, right click, go down to motion tracker tags, and I'm going to go to a planar constraint, and it will give me this triangle with 3 points on it, and it's basically asking what is the plane, the floor plane. So I'm going to put this spot here, and as you can see in here, it brings up the track that I've connected that point to, and this is green, which basically means it's a good track. If it was red, you probably wouldn't want to put that point on it because it could be jumping around or whatever. But we actually eliminated, you know, quite a lot of those bad tracks earlier with the error threshold, although you can see quite a lot of red in here still, so I could have maybe brought that down a little bit lower. But I think all three of these tracks are going to, yeah, they're all green, they're all pretty good. So that basically features define plane, that's correct. And then it wants to know what direction it is. So I've put this on the floor, so Y direction, Y is usually up. Well, it's always up in Cinema 4D. So now we've done that, you can see that it's flattened it out in our world now.